Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about an event that happened over 50 years ago that's never really been talked about until now. We're going to go from Laos all the way up into Thailand and talk about when the Hmong refugees fled communists, Laos, and made their way across the mountains into Thailand. This is the untold story of the Hmong people. It was 1975 and the Vietnam War had just ended. But there were still thousands of Hmong refugees stuck in the mountains of Laos who needed help getting out of the country. The United States had dropped them like a hot potato, and they were being hunted down by the communists who had taken over Laos. So this group of people did something incredible. They hiked for weeks through the mountains, carrying their belongings on their backs, not knowing what lay ahead. Some of them had been forced to kill members of their own family to survive the war. Others had seen their villages destroyed and burned to the ground. But despite all of this, they kept going, driven by the hope of a better life in America. As they journeyed through the mountains, they had to dodge soldiers and landmines, all while trying to stay hidden from the communist authorities. But eventually, after many weeks of walking, they reached their destination. They had made it to the border of Thailand, and here they hoped to start a new life. But when they got to the border, they found that it was heavily guarded by Thai soldiers, who weren't letting anyone cross. At first, the refugees didn't know what to do. They had nowhere else to go, and they couldn't stay in Laos, because the communists would find them and force them back. But then someone had an idea. They would hide in the mountains until the Thai soldiers left, and then they would try to sneak across the border. So that's what they did. They lived in the mountains for weeks, eating only what they could find. Eventually, the Thai soldiers gave up and they left. The refugees then crossed the border into Thailand and started their new lives. But it wasn't easy. Many of them didn't speak the language, and they didn't know how to find food or work. They were constantly afraid of being caught by the Thai police, who would put them in prison if they found out they were illegal immigrants. But despite all these challenges, the Hmong people managed to make a life for themselves in Thailand. They started businesses and raised families. Some of them even became successful politicians. So why did the US abandon these people? Well, it's complicated. But let me try to explain it. The Hmong people are an ethnic minority in Laos, and they've been there for centuries. But in the 1960s, when the Vietnam War was raging, the US government recruited them to fight against the communists. The Americans gave them weapons and taught them how to use them. But once the war was over and the communists took control of Laos, the Hmong people were on their own. The US didn't want to get involved in another war, so they basically left the Hmong people to fend for themselves. Now, this is where things get a little bit tricky. The thing is, the Hmong people had been fighting alongside the CIA, and the Americans didn't want that to be known. So they told the Hmong people that they were on their own and that the US wasn't going to help them. But in reality, the Americans were still going to help them. They just didn't want anyone else to know about it. So they set up a secret plan to airlift the Hmong people out of Laos and into Thailand. But this plan was top secret. The Hmong people weren't supposed to know that the US was helping them. If they did, the communists might have tried to stop them. And that's what makes this story so amazing. These people had literally nothing to their name, except the clothes on their back and the belief that America would help them. But somehow they managed to escape communism and build new lives for themselves in Thailand. Today, the Hmong people are a thriving community in Thailand. They have schools, businesses, and places of worship. They're also very involved in politics and have helped to elect several members of the Thai parliament, but they haven't forgotten about the help that the US gave them. Every year on November, which is Hmong American Remembrance Day, they hold ceremonies to honor the memory of those who didn't make it out of Laos and to thank the Americans who helped them escape communism. This is a true story of courage, hope, and resilience. These people had nothing to their name but the clothes on their backs when they fled communist Laos. But they still managed to build new lives for themselves in Thailand. They are a testament to the human spirit and an inspiration to us all. If you enjoyed this video, I encourage you to learn more about the Hmong people and their culture. They are an amazing group of people with a rich history and culture. You can also support them by donating to various charities that help Hmong refugees. Thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something new. If you did, please consider subscribing. I'm always looking for interesting topics to cover, and I love getting suggestions from my viewers. So if you have an event that you think I should cover, please leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Till next time, stay curious. When the communists took over Laos, the Hmong people were on their own. The U.S. government recruited them to fight against the communists in the 1960s during the height of the Vietnam War. The U.S. trained and armed them, teaching them how to use machetes, hunting rifles, and even grenades. The Hmong warriors were fierce, and they fought bravely against the communists. But the war was long and brutal, and the Hmong people suffered terrible losses. When the communists finally won the war and took control of Laos, the Hmong people were in grave danger. The communists viewed the Hmong as traitors, and they began to hunt them down. The Hmong had to flee into the mountains and live in hiding. Many of them were killed or captured by the communists, but some managed to escape to neighboring countries such as Thailand and China. The communists were determined to wipe out the Hmong people, but the Hmong were too good at living in the mountains. The Hmong had been living in the mountains for centuries, and they knew the terrain like the back of their hands. They were able to evade the communist soldiers and live off the land, hunting and gathering food and building shelters out of trees and rocks. The Hmong were also helped by their allies, the CIA and the United States government. The CIA provided them with food, supplies, and weapons and helped them to launch attacks against the communists. The U.S. government also set up refugee camps in neighboring countries where the Hmong could escape the fighting and live in relative safety. Despite these efforts, the situation for the Hmong people was dire. They were constantly on the run, and they didn't know if they would ever be safe. Many of them had lost everything, their homes, their families, and their way of life. But the Hmong people were not willing to give up. They were determined to survive and to preserve their culture and traditions. They continued to fight against the communists and to resist the communist regime in Laos. In the end, the Hmong people won. They were able to preserve their culture and traditions, and they continue to live in Laos today. They have also gained international recognition for their bravery and their struggle for freedom. The Hmong people are a reminder to us all of the power of the human spirit and the importance of fighting for freedom and democracy. Their story is a testament to the courage and determination of those who stand up for what they believe in, no matter how difficult the odds may seem. The Mekong River forms a natural border between Laos and Thailand. It is here where we start our story today, the story of refugees. They fled their country more than 40 years ago, and many of them still live in camps along the Thai-Laotian border. Why did they leave, and what are their lives like today? We sent our Southeast Asia correspondent Eleanor Hill to meet them. Eleanor, thanks so much for being on the ground for us there. So first things first, just describe to us who are these people and why did they flee their country? Well, these are the Hmong people, and they were once a part of a secret war. You see, when I was growing up, the only thing I knew about Laos was that it was the country between Thailand and Vietnam. Very mysterious. Very little information came out of there. But it was during the Vietnam War that the Royal Lao Army, that's the army of this country right here, fought alongside the U.S. against the Pathet Lao, which were the communists. The Hmong were an ethnic group within Laos. They were recruited by the CIA to be soldiers. They fought against the communist Pathet Lao forces. But when the Vietnam War ended and the communists took over, the Hmong people lost. They were betrayed by the CIA. They had no way out of Laos. They couldn't integrate into Laos society. Many of them were killed or imprisoned by the new regime. So thousands upon thousands fled across the Mekong River into neighboring Thailand. And they have been stuck here ever since. Okay, so they fled to Thailand. Are they now officially refugees? Do they have refugee status? They do not. So after they arrived in Thailand, they were kept in these camps in what was called a buffer zone along the Thai-Laotian border. They weren't allowed to go anywhere else inside Thailand. Their original plan was that they would be resettled elsewhere, perhaps in the United States, Australia, some European countries. But those plans fell through. And so generation after generation has lived in these camps with no idea when or if they will ever be able to leave. Okay, so tell us about these camps. What are they like today? There are 9 official camps along the border, each one housing between 2,000 and 7,000 refugees. They're incredibly overcrowded. There isn't enough housing. People have to share huts. The facilities are really run down. Most of the people here have never had a proper education. For decades, the UN and other aid agencies refused to come here because the Thai government wouldn't let them. They were only allowed to deliver aid from a distance. So the people here have had to fend for themselves. They grow their own food. They've set up their own schools, their own clinics. They even have businesses, They trade goods across the river with people in Laos. And life is hard enough for an adult, but it's particularly difficult for children here. They've grown up knowing only this camp is home. Now most of them have never been to school. There isn't enough room in the classrooms. Teachers are volunteers with no formal training. Some of the children, though, are starting to get out of the camps. A handful have scholarships to study in Thai universities. And what about the adults? What kind of work can they do? Most of them do odd jobs around the camps. It's like I said, they are self-sufficient. They also trade with Laos, so they might be carpenters or tailors or whatever skills they have. But it's hard to make money here. Even if you do have some, it's hard to save. When I met one man, he was making $30 a month working at a local guest house. But he said he has 4 children and 2 wives to support. He also has HIV and has to take antiretroviral drugs every day. He told me that he dreams of going to university to learn how to be a doctor, so he can help the sick people in his community. I also met a woman who runs an eatery in the camp, serving noodle soups and fried rice. She dreams of opening a restaurant in Bangkok. I also met a young man who makes handmade silver jewelry. His pieces are beautiful, but he says it's hard to sell them. Many of the refugees here are highly skilled, but they can't put those skills to good use. So what rights do they have? Are they able to marry? Are they able to have bank accounts? No, they're not allowed to travel outside of the camps. They need permission from the Thai government, and they're not granted that permission. They can't open bank accounts. They can't legally work. They can't really do anything without that legal status. It's also because they don't have official documents, they can't claim land. So when someone dies, their family can't inherit that property. So it creates a lot of problems, especially for women. If a woman's husband dies, she loses her right to live in that camp. She could be forced to marry someone else. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. Like, how does that work? It's not uncommon for there to be polygamy here, so men have multiple wives. Well, the first wife is the one that they marry ceremonially, and she stays with them throughout their life. But then if they want to have more children, they can have additional wives, which is known as a secondary wife. These secondary wives usually stay with the family for around 5 years, and then they go back to their family of origin. This particular woman that I met, her husband had passed away, and she was now taking care of his elderly mother. She had no security, no inheritance, nothing. And she was raising 3 young children by herself. She was looking after her brother-in-law, who was an addict, and she was looking after her sister-in-law, who had mental health issues. And she really didn't know how she was going to be able to survive. But she was incredibly resilient. She told me that she's a strong woman. She prays for strength every morning. She doesn't want assistance from anyone. She wants to be self-sufficient. But it is difficult. How long have they been living in these conditions? As you mentioned, it's been several generations now. Despite all of these challenges, the Hmong people are known for their resilience and adaptability. They have been able to preserve their culture and traditions despite decades of persecution, and they continue to hope for a better future. Many of them dream of one day being able to live in peace and freedom in a country that respects their rights and protects their way of life. But the Hmong are not just passive victims of circumstance. They are actively working to improve their situation and protect their rights. They have established community organizations that provide legal aid and healthcare to refugees. And they have also reached out to international human rights groups to help raise awareness of their plight. One of the biggest challenges facing the Hmong, however, is the lack of access to education. Many of the children in the camps are not able to attend school because there are not enough teachers or classrooms to go around. This means that they are missing out on the opportunity to learn essential skills that will help them to build a better future for themselves. But the Hmong are determined to change this. They have set up their own schools and are training young people to become teachers so that all children in the camps have access to education. Another major challenge facing the Hmong is the lack of economic opportunities. Most of the refugees in the camps are too afraid to leave their homes and venture into the outside world, which means that they are not able to work and earn money to support themselves and their families. This has led to widespread poverty and destitution in the camps, making it difficult for the Hmong to meet their basic needs. However, some organizations are working to provide vocational training to Hmong refugees so that they can learn skills that will help them to find work and become self-sufficient. Healthcare is another major issue for the Hmong. Many of them suffer from malnutrition and other health problems as a result of living in overcrowded and unsanitary conditions in the camps. There is also a high rate of tuberculosis among the refugees, and many of them have limited access to medical care. However, some organizations are working to improve access to healthcare for the Hmong by setting up mobile clinics and providing medical training to community members. Despite all of these challenges, the Hmong people remain resilient and hopeful. They have a strong sense of community and are known for their hospitality and friendliness. Visitors to the camps often comment on the warm welcome they receive from the Hmong and the beauty of their traditional music and dance. In conclusion, the life of the Hmong people is truly a story of survival against all odds. Their strength and resilience in the face of persecution and danger is truly inspiring. We wrap up this video. We want to encourage you to take action and help the Hmong people protect their culture and way of life. Every small action can make a big difference, and together we can help the Hmong people build a brighter future. Thank you for watching, and we hope that you will continue to stand with the Hmong people in their fight for freedom, justice, and peace. Imagine waking up before the sun, not to the sound of birds tweeting or gentle waves lapping at the shore, but to the distant rumble of fighter jets and the haunting echo of gunfire. This is the harsh reality for the Hmong people who have lived in the Thai-Myanmar border region for over 2 decades. These hills, once their sanctuary, are now a battleground where survival is a daily struggle. I trekked down from the Thai side of the border to meet a family of 4, including 2 young children who had fled Myanmar recently. They requested anonymity for safety reasons. Despite the danger, they shared their harrowing journey with me. Over 20 years, they have hopped between 8 different camps, always looking over their shoulders, always fearing the next military raid. For them, home isn't a place but a feeling, a memory of a life that was and could never be again. In these camps, life is a balancing act. Balancing fear of the Thai army with the threat of being hunted by the Myanmar army, balancing the hope of a new life in America with the reality of living in a refugee camp, balancing love for their homeland with the pain of leaving it behind. Each day brings new challenges, from dwindling food supplies to the threat of violence. Yet amidst the struggle, they hold on to hope. Hope for a better life, hope for a safer tomorrow, and hope that one day soon, their story will have a happy ending. When I asked them what they wanted the world to know, their answer was simple, yet profound. We are more than just refugees, they said. We are human beings with dreams, hopes, and fears just like everyone else. All we ask is that you don't forget us. Today, the Hmong are living on the edge, teetering between despair and hope. The world must act now to ensure that their story ends with a sunrise, not a goodbye. They need our help to ensure that their voices are heard, their rights are protected, and their future is secured. Will you stand with the Hmong today, because their tomorrow depends on it? Thank you for joining me on this journey to shed light on the stories that matter. If you found this video impactful, I invite you to show your support. Your support helps amplify these crucial stories, ensuring they reach a wider audience and create meaningful change. Together, we can continue to drive positive impact.